35th chapter is a beautiful chapter of the book of Yeshayah. It's a chapter that's even quoted by Ben-Gurion, if you know something about Ben-Gurion and his love of the southern parts of Israel, the Negev. Yesusum midbar vitzia vitagel arava vativrach ka chavatzalet. The arid desert will be made glad, will be made joyous. The wilderness will rejoice, and it shall blossom like a rose. Paroch tifrach v'tagel afgilat v'ranein kvod halavanon nitan la hadar hakarmel v'hasharon. It will blossom abundantly, right? The double language, we know, like kadosh kadoshim, the holiest of the holies. It will be the most blossomous, the most abundant blossom. It will exult, it will shout, it will receive like the glory of Lebanon. Right? We think about the Lebanon, the cedars of Lebanon, the great forest there. The desert will become like that. It will have the splendor of the Carmel and the Sharon, more bountiful regions, of course, than the Negev. Hema Yeruch Vod Adonai Hadar Eloheinu. There we shall see the glory of God, the splendor, the beauty of our God. Right? God making something that looks deathly, God making it look beautiful, abundant, full. And this is in many ways, and we'll talk about it a little further, but right, so much of the book of Isaiah was about destruction and maybe rebirth and coming back and the threat from Assyria and the destruction that's going to happen to the 10 tribes, the northern kingdom, and the threats upon Yehudah, the southern kingdom. And here we're told that what was desert, what seems dead, will bloom, and that will show the true beauty and splendor of God. Strengthen your hands that are weak. Make firm your knees that are sort of shaking and right, make them amatz. And interesting there, right? If we take the first word and the last word in the phrase, we have of that verse, we have a phrase that we use different times. Chazak v'amatz. We have it with Yoshua. We talked about a number of chapters ago when Yeshayah warned the haughty people of the tribe of Ephraim and used the phrase Chazak v'amatz. Ephraim was most famous person was Yoshua ben Nun, and here it's being used as well to the Jewish people. Be strength, be strong, don't be scared. And this, of course, could be, we don't know when this happens, is this presumably, again, like most of the chapters where it's looking to challenge or to reassure Bnei Israel about God's glory, seems to be around the time of the Assyrian siege of Yerushalayim, where, of course, Sancherib miraculously is defeated. Continuing Pasuk Daled, verse 4, Imru L'nimharei lev chizku al tira'u. Hine Elohechem nakam yavo gmul Elohim hu yavo v'yisha'achem. So say to those that are nervous, whose hearts are nervous, be strong, don't be scared. Your God is going to avenge. Your God is going to give you triumph. He's going to be Moshia etchem. You're so worried, you're so scared, your legs are shaking, your hands are weak. No. God is going to come. Don't worry. Az tipakachna einei ivrim. Then the eyes of the blind shall be open. And this is an idea that was used now 3 times in the last number of chapters. Those who are blinded and can see what the prophet says. Those who are blinded, but God's glory will be so great that even they will not be able to avoid it. And here too, the eyes of the blind will be open. Vaznei chershim tipatachna, and the ears of the deaf will be unstopped. They won't be plugged up. Everybody will be able to see and to hear. God's glory will be so great. Then the lame shall leap like a deer. And this sounds, of course, messianic, and it sounds like midrashic, what the midrash says about the revelation of Sinai, where according to the Midrash, or a Midrashic understanding, everybody who was sick, when they beheld God's glory at Sinai, they were healed of their sicknesses, of their illnesses. So here too, in a sense, that's what's being said. God's glory is going to be so great that the lame will be like a deer. V'taron lashon ilaim, and those who cannot speak, their tongue will be able to shout out loud, because waters will burst forth in the desert, streams in the wilderness. And coming back to we had the fire destruction, we had the water destruction. Here, the water is coming into the desert, and that's not destruction. That, of course, is giving life. That's one of the challenges of the Torah. And water, it can be a vehicle of life. It can be a vehicle of death. Think back all the way back to the book of Shemot. The waters separate, Bnei Israel go through them, they destroy the Egyptians. The Bnei Israel don't have water. Water can be a vehicle of life, or it can be a vehicle of death. And here, where it's been associated with submerging like a tsunami, here water is coming into the wilderness and giving life. V'haya hasharav la'agam v'tzimaon lemube'ei mayim b'naveh tanim rivtzah chatzir lekaneh v'goma. And what is the dry earth will become like a pool. Parched lands will be fountains of water. The home of jackals will become a pasture. The abode of ostriches will have reeds on them. And that's interesting. This chapter, think back to the last chapter. The last chapter, we had a list of all those animals. When Edom, the great enemy of Israel, the descendants of Esau, will be defeated, their land will become the place of animals, will be so desolate that they'll have, there was a whole list of animals, jackals and hyenas and different types of owls and ostriches, and all the animals were running around their land. Nature had taken over. It talked about, it was like these apocalyptic movie scenes where somebody comes into a city that used to be, a home of 5 million people, and now all the buildings are covered in ivy and moss and half destroyed, and the animals are running all over. This chapter is saying just the opposite. The destruction of Edom was that. Here, dry land, that was the place where the animals were because there was no human habitation. Now the humans have taken it over because of it's a place that's so great. Now, don't worry about the animals. They'll just go over to Edom, so they'll be okay. V'hayasham maslul v'derech hakodesh yikarela lo yavrenu tamei v'hu lamo holech derech ve'evilim lo yitu. And a highway will appear there, It was desolate. All of a sudden, there are people walking around, and it will be a sacred way. It will be a place that is kadosh. So it's like a place where you can go from there up to Yerushalayim, a place of holiness, a place of Kiddusha. There's not going to be any impurity there. Nobody will go astray there. It's like a path. It's going to be so obvious that God is there. Lo yesham aryeh fritz chayot bal ya'alena. Lo timatzei sham v'halchu geulim. There won't be any lions, no ferocious beasts that will be found there. But those who are redeemed, those who are goel, those who are redeemed by God will be walking there, It's a place of godliness. It's not a place of fear. It's kind of, in a sense, going back to the blessings in Parshat Bechukotai, where it talks about things such as that. Lo tavor cherev ba'artzachem. No sword will go through your land. Your land will be such a place of peace. You won't even need an army. There's going to be no danger. And here's a verse that's a little bit more well known. Uftuye Adonai Yeshuvun uvo Tzion birina v'simchat olam al rosham sason v'simcha yasigu v'nasu yagon va'anacha. And those in the past who had been ransomed, they will return to God. And this doesn't necessarily mean that it refers to people who were literally ransom, but the Jewish people, in a sense, who were ransomed, whether it means the 10 tribes or people from Yehudah, and they're going to come to Zion with joy and with everlasting happiness, sason v'simcha, joy and gladness they will achieve, while sorrow and suffering, in a sense, disappear, flee away. So here we see, after many, many worries and descriptions of destruction that's going to happen, here this chapter is one of glory. This chapter is one of joy. This chapter is one that is messianic. Did it happen fully in the time of Chizkiyahu? It doesn't appear so. And so we hope that these words will come certain speedily in our days, that we will return to Yerushalayim as redeemed and with great joy, and all of the suffering that people have will go away. a great moment in the book of Yeshayah. In a sense, this is sort of almost like the end of a certain section of the book. Next number of chapters are going to be historical chapters that we saw in the book of Kings. And then starting chapter 40 is a complete sort of different type of Yeshayah, different type, also messianic, but different type of language. And that's why, according to certainly the scholars, they look at and talk about it as being a Deutero Isaiah. Isaiah 2, is it the same prophet? Is it a different prophet? I don't really care about those questions. But what it demonstrates is, in a sense, is that this is the end of, in many ways, of the first section of this book.